Well, hello there everybody, and welcome to our first tips video for the English Civil War. We're actually going to be playing with Parliament, so we will do a separate video for the Royalists, but of course that's only if you guys want to see that. So if you do, make sure to hit the like button, drop a comment down below. Now these tips actually come directly from the creators themselves, and so I think that they are objectively, I should say, extremely valuable tips. So we're going to go ahead and take a look here and give you a parliamentarian guide. So as you may notice in the first few turns, your armies are locked. They have no ability to move, and the Earl of Essex isn't going anywhere. So we've got to go ahead and essentially wait a little bit. Now, we can actually mouse over certain areas to see how they feel in this particular conflict, and since this is very early in the war, not all of these areas really support anybody. In fact, all these areas that you're looking at that sort of have a sort of tan color, these are neutral zones. So some people support Parliament, some people support the Royalists, but there's really not an overwhelming support for one or the other. Now, places over here like Manchester, for instance, are heavily in support of Parliament, with 51% support and 23% for the Royalists. The same is true in Lancaster, where we have a lot of Royalist support, 55 to 20%. But anyway, let's go ahead and get at what you can do in the first few turns. So one thing we want to do is we want to enter decision mode. Now, the decision I want you guys to focus on for this beginning turn is going to be the declaration. Now, this costs us 1 EP. What is EP? If we look up here, these are engagement points, and you only have 15 to start with, so you want to be very careful as to how you spend them. You take this declaration, and we can now put it in any of these areas that we see fit. Now, I want you to really think about where this is going to be best put. Personally, I tend to try to put them in the bigger cities because we're going to gain more income from those cities. But this declaration essentially lets the king know that we are declaring war and that we are trying to raise a trained band of officers and soldiers to, of course, begin a war with the king. And the reason that I'm asking you to press this button right here, the Owner of All Regions button, which you can just press by hitting the 1 on your numpad, is this is going to allow you to see the loyalty in these regions. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do my declaration all the way over here in Dover. I want to make sure that I have some control in the southeast. I'm also going to drop a declaration in Weymouth in the southwest. And maybe we'll do a few more declarations over here in the northeast by Norwich, for instance, maybe even one in King's Lynn. Now, you could, of course, decide to spread these out however you want, but keep in mind you only have 6 to start with, so you want to make sure to put them in places that you think you're going to try to occupy or places that might be hard to capture in the future. Now, in this case, we're really just playing them essentially randomly. I want you to think a lot more about where you put those declarations, and keep in mind these declarations may or may not work. Now, if they do work, you're going to get a defensive band of trained men that will actually take over the city, obviously increase loyalty, because in this time period, let's face it, having a musket or having a pike in your face was pretty much enough to make you side with one side or the other. So we're going to go ahead and see if that works. It doesn't always work. So keep in mind, you could have one game where you put all these declarations out and not a single one of them works. You could have a game where you put all these declarations out and half of them work, so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and end our turn and proceed to the next turn and see how our declarations did. So you can see that, for instance, in Norwich and over here in King's Lynn, they worked very well, but unfortunately in Yarmouth as well as over here in Dover, they didn't work at all. They also didn't work in Plymouth. Now, despite Plymouth being pro-parliamentarian, we know they didn't work because there's no trained band here defending the land. The places that we do have a trained band, or in this case, for Worcester, for instance, essentially show us that the declaration worked. We were able to raise a militia of sorts, and this area is now under our control. Now, you can see that still the loyalty is still a little, well, mostly in support of us, but there's always going to be a little bit of loyalty to the other side. You might get to the point, for instance, here in London, I believe the loyalty is 50% parliamentarian, 20% royalist. So it's very rare to find a royalist here in London, but they do still exist. So now, of course, with the second turn, we want to consider the other decisions that we have at our disposal. The gain support position is available in only 2 cities, and that's unfortunate. That will change as the game progresses. But right now, gain support, which increases loyalty and costs 1 engagement point, can be played in London, and it can also be played over here in Plymouth. So we're going to do that. That's quite important. We could also press at this point F2 and get to the recruitment mode. Now, we've got to keep in mind, one of the most important things about this game is having enough money to keep replacing units and to keep that replacement pool continuing, essentially. Now, one thing we could do to get money, although it's going to cost us, is we could actually go to our decisions, which you're going to get to by pressing the F4 button. And these decisions come and go throughout the game. Right here, the banker's loan would essentially give us some money, but at the cost of 5 engagement points and 200 victory points, but it would give us 30 money. And let's face it, we need money right now. We're down to 3. If you don't have enough money, your men start leaving your army. Obviously, they're not getting paid. They're not going to stick around. It's pretty simple. So now we're going to go ahead and also take a look at something quite important, and that is requisition offices. If you press Control and left click here, you can actually see the buildings in your different provinces. Now, for instance, the requisition office, if we have a city with a requisition office, it's going to bring us 1 money per turn, which actually means quite a lot. We also have the London powder mill, which increases ammo for our men. And for instance, if your army starts to, lose men or lose cohesion, you're probably going to want to head back to a place that has those things, because they're obviously going to reinforce your men a lot faster than they otherwise would be reinforced. Now, let's go ahead and go to turn 3. Let's hope that those loyalty points actually go somewhere and manage to work for us. And once again, we're still locked, and this will continue until turn 4. Okay, guys, so here's another thing to consider, of course. There are some units we can build, and to find out what units we can build, we go to the military recruitment mode. Now, in this case, we don't have actually enough money to build the unit, but if we did have enough money, we still wouldn't be able to build these units for 2 reasons. Number one, well, we don't have the money for now, but the most important reason is these units are from Devon, and they're also, I believe this one is from Southampton. Now, what does that mean? That means that to be able to actually recruit these units in Devon and Southampton, we need to have overwhelming support there, or overwhelming loyalty. At that point, we can, of course, consider bringing them into our army. And that's about going to wrap it up, guys, for our initial tips video of the game here. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helped. This is definitely a decent starting tips video. We're not going to do a full-out tutorial because I really feel that with AG odds games, you absolutely need to read the manual. If you don't read the manual, you're going to be completely lost unless you've had experience with these games in the past. So reading the manual with a game like this is extremely important, but it's also a very rewarding experience. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know if you want to see a Royalist tips video as well. Thank you, guys.